December 3rd, 2018, 2:17 in the afternoon. I'm sitting in my Honda Civic outside First National Bank, staring at a cashier's check for $47,000. Every penny I had left in the world after my wife's funeral expenses. I had two choices: walk into that bank and deposit it into a savings account earning 1.2% interest like I'd done my entire life, or drive across town to close on a duplex that would change everything. I chose the duplex. That one decision to stop saving and start investing took me from broke at 65 to $1.3 million at 74. Let me tell you where I was that December afternoon. My wife Linda had passed 4 months earlier after a 2-year battle with lung cancer. Between the medical bills Medicare didn't cover, the funeral, and settling her affairs, I'd burned through most of our retirement savings. What was left, that $47,000, represented 43 years of careful saving, coupon clipping, and living below our means. I'd spent my entire adult life following the same financial advice every middle-class American gets. Save your money. Don't take risks. Keep it safe. A penny saved is a penny earned. Pay yourself first by putting money in the bank. All of it was wrong. I learned this the hard way when I met Walter at the diner where I'd started eating breakfast every morning just to have somewhere to go. Walter was about my age, maybe a little older, but he drove a new F-150, wore expensive boots, and always picked up the check when younger guys joined our table. One morning, curiosity got the better of me. "Walter, what did you do for work?" I asked. "Same as you," he said. "Factory work. 38 years at the paper mill before they shut it down." That confused me. "Then how come you seem to have money for whatever you want?" Walter laughed. "Harold, I stopped saving money 30 years ago. Best financial decision I ever made." That sounded insane. "What do you mean you stopped saving?" "I mean exactly that," Walter said. "I quit putting money in savings accounts and started putting it into things that made me more money. Real estate mostly. Every dollar I would have saved, I invested instead." Walter pulled out his phone and showed me photos of rental properties. Small houses, duplexes, a few apartment buildings. "I own 23 rental units," he said. "They generate about $8,500 a month after expenses. My tenants pay all my bills, and I never have to worry about outliving my money." The numbers hit me like a truck. Walter was making more from rental income than I'd ever made working full time. And he'd built it all by doing the opposite of what I'd been taught about money. "Here's what nobody tells you about saving," Walter explained. "Money sitting in the bank loses value every year to inflation. Even in a good savings account earning 2%, you're losing purchasing power. But money invested in real assets, real estate, businesses, things that produce income, that money grows faster than inflation and pays you while it grows." That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the $47,000 sitting in my checking account. In a savings account earning 1.2%, it would generate about $564 per year. But Walter had showed me rental properties that would cash flow $300 to $500 per month on a $47,000 investment. That's $3,600 to $6,000 annually, 10 times what the savings account would earn. I need you to do something before I continue. Write this in the comments: "I invest my money instead of saving it." Because what I discovered next only makes sense if you understand that saving money is actually losing money. The next week, I started looking at rental properties. Not because I knew what I was doing, but because Walter had planted a seed I couldn't ignore. Every dollar in my savings account was a dollar that could be working harder. I found a duplex in a working-class neighborhood for $52,000. Both units were rented for $450 each, bringing in $900 monthly. After taxes, insurance, and setting aside money for repairs, The net income would be about $650 per month. The numbers were simple. Put $47,000 down, finance the remaining $5,000 with a small personal loan, and immediately start generating $650 monthly income. That's $7,800 annually from the same money that would earn $564 in a savings account. But here's what really opened my eyes. Walter introduced me to a real estate agent named Carol, who specialized in rental properties. Carol showed me how to think about real estate investing differently than I'd ever thought about money. Most people think about the purchase price, Carol said as we walked through the duplex. But smart investors think about the income. This property generates $900 monthly rent. Over 10 years, that's $108,000 in rental income from a $52,000 investment. Plus, the property will appreciate. Plus, if you finance part of it, your tenants are paying down your mortgage. She was right. Even if the property never appreciated a penny, the rental income alone would return my entire investment in 6 years. Everything after that would be profit. But properties do appreciate. Carol showed me comparable sales in the neighborhood over the past 5 years. Similar duplexes had increased in value by about 4% annually. At that rate, my $52,000 property would be worth $77,000 in 10 years. So I'd collect $108,000 in rental income over 10 years, plus gain $25,000 in appreciation for a total return of $133,000 on a $52,000 investment. That's a 155% gain, not counting the tax benefits. Compare that to leaving $52,000 in a savings account, earning 1.2% for 10 years. Total return, about $6,600. The difference was staggering. $133,000 versus $6,600. All because I chose to invest instead of save. That December afternoon, sitting in my car outside the bank, I made the decision that changed my life. Instead of depositing that cashier's check into savings, I drove to the title company and bought the duplex. Walking out of that closing, I felt something I hadn't felt in decades: excitement about money. For the first time in my life, my money was going to work harder than I ever had. The first rent check was magical. $900 from both tenants, minus $250 for taxes, insurance, and repairs, left me with $650. That was more than Social Security was paying me at the time. I had created an income stream that would pay me whether I got out of bed or not. Most people quit when they make one good decision. You didn't. You're still here, still learning. Hit subscribe. But the real breakthrough came 6 months later when Carol called with another opportunity. A small apartment building with 4 units was going on the market. The owner was elderly and wanted a quick sale. Asking price, $125,000. Total monthly rent, $2,100. I didn't have $125,000. I barely had $10,000 left after buying the duplex. But Carol explained how equity works. Your duplex has appreciated about $3,000 since you bought it, she said. Plus, you've paid down the loan by about $800. That's $3,800 in equity you can use as collateral for another investment. Carol introduced me to a bank that specialized in investor loans. They would lend me $100,000 to buy the apartment building if I used my duplex as collateral and put $25,000 down. I didn't have $25,000, but Carol had a solution, a business partner. She knew an investor who would put up the down payment in exchange for 50% ownership. I'd manage the property, he'd provide the capital, and we'd split the profits. 6 months after buying my first rental property, I owned half of a 4-unit apartment building, generating $1,050 monthly cash flow to me personally. 2 properties, $1,700 monthly passive income, all from that original decision to stop saving and start investing. Over the next 3 years, I used the same strategy again and again. Find undervalued rental properties, buy them with minimal down payments, use the rental income to qualify for more loans, and leverage the equity I was building to buy more properties. By age 68, I owned 7 rental properties worth about $450,000 total. My monthly rental income was $3,200 after expenses. I was making more from real estate than I'd ever made working. But the real education came when I started networking with other real estate investors. I joined a local investment club and met people who had been building wealth through real estate for decades. That's where I learned about something called the zero savings law. It says saving money after 65 is actually the fastest way to go broke. Sounds crazy, right? But when I tried what it suggested instead, everything changed in 90 days. It's all in the description. The law made perfect sense once I understood it. Savings accounts pay 1 to 2% interest while inflation runs 3 to 4% annually. Every year you save money, you lose purchasing power. Your $100,000 in the bank becomes worth $96,000 in real buying power after 1 year of 4% inflation. But real assets, real estate, businesses, stocks of profitable companies, those appreciate faster than inflation. They protect your wealth from being eroded by rising prices. More importantly, productive assets generate income while they appreciate. My rental properties weren't just keeping up with inflation. They were producing cash flow that increased every year as I raised rents. That's when I made the second decision that accelerated my wealth building. I stopped keeping any significant money in savings accounts. Every dollar beyond a small emergency fund went into income-producing investments. Over the next 4 years, I bought 6 more properties. Each purchase got easier as I built relationships with lenders, contractors, and property managers. I learned to spot good deals, negotiate better prices, and maximize rental income. By age 72, my real estate portfolio was worth $780,000. After mortgages, my net worth was about $520,000. Monthly rental income, $4,800 after all expenses. But here's where the story gets really interesting. Other people started asking how I'd gone from broke to financially secure so quickly. Friends from church, neighbors, guys I met at the coffee shop. That's when I realized I could monetize my knowledge. I started offering consulting services to people who wanted to invest in real estate but didn't know where to start. I charged $100 an hour to help them analyze properties, review contracts, and avoid beginner mistakes. The consulting income was substantial, sometimes $2,000 per month. But more importantly, it connected me with motivated investors who became business partners on larger deals. One of my consulting clients, a retired teacher named Patricia, proposed a joint venture. She had $150,000 in her 401k, but was afraid to invest it alone. I had the experience, but not the capital for a larger property we'd found. We partnered to buy a 12-unit apartment building for $320,000. She provided most of the down payment. I provided the expertise and would manage the property. We split the profits 60-40 in her favor. That building generates $7,200 monthly gross rent. After expenses and mortgage payments, the net income is about $3,500 monthly. My 40% share is $1,400 per month, $16,800 annually, from a deal that required zero cash from me. Today, at 74, my net worth is $1.3 million. I own interests in 19 rental properties across 3 partnerships. Monthly rental income, $6,200 to me personally. Consulting income, $1,500 to $3,000 per month, depending on how much I want to work. I live in a nice house, drive a reliable car, travel when I want, and never worry about money. All because I made one decision at age 65 to stop saving and start investing. But here's what keeps me awake some nights. What if I'd made this decision at 40 instead of 65? The math is devastating. 25 additional years of compound real estate investing. 25 more years of rental income accumulation. 25 more years of property appreciation and equity building. If I'd started buying rental properties at 40, that first duplex would be completely paid off by now and worth 3 times what I paid for it. The rental income from just that one property over 34 years would have exceeded $200,000. Multiply that across dozens of properties I could have acquired over those extra decades, and I wouldn't be worth $1.3 million today. I'd probably be worth $8 to $12 million. Every year I kept money in savings accounts was a year of investment returns I'll never recover. Every month I followed conventional advice to keep it safe was wealth building opportunity lost forever. Look, I'm 74. I'm not trying to build a business or sell courses. I just put down the 7 things that actually worked. Called it the Wealth After 65 Code. If it helps you skip even one of the years I wasted, that's enough for me. Link below. The decision I made at 65 wasn't complicated, but it was profound. I decided to stop letting money sit idle in accounts that barely paid interest and start putting it to work in assets that generated real returns. That shift from saver to investor didn't just change my bank account, it changed how I thought about money entirely. Instead of trying to preserve what I had, I started focusing on growing what I had. Instead of playing defense, I started playing offense. Most people spend their entire lives saving money and wondering why they never get ahead. It's because saving money is a losing game. Inflation erodes the purchasing power of saved dollars, while the rich use those same dollars to buy appreciating assets. The wealthy don't save money, they deploy money. They put it to work in real estate, businesses, stocks, and other investments that produce income and appreciate over time. If you're 40, 50, even 60, you still have time to make this shift. But every year you wait is compound growth you'll never recover. Every month you keep substantial money in savings accounts is opportunity cost that compounds against you. You don't need a lot of money to start investing. My first property required $47,000, but I've since helped people get started with $15,000 or $20,000 down payments. You don't need perfect knowledge before you begin. I learned as I went, making mistakes and adjusting. What you need is to stop thinking like a saver and start thinking like an investor. Stop asking, how can I keep this money safe? And start asking, how can I put this money to work? Look at your current finances. How much money do you have sitting in savings accounts earning 1 or 2%? How much could you invest in rental properties earning 8 to 15% annually? How much could you put in dividend stocks paying 4 to 6%? The opportunity cost of keeping money in low-yield savings is enormous. Every dollar earning 1% in the bank could be earning 8% in real estate or 6% in dividend stocks. Over 20 years, that difference compounds into hundreds of thousands of dollars. The decision I made at 65 was simple. Stop saving and start investing. Stop letting inflation erode my wealth and start building wealth through appreciating assets. Stop playing it safe and start playing it smart. Before you go, write this in the comments. I put my money to work. 4 words that separate wealthy people from broke people, because wealthy people don't let money sit idle, while broke people think savings accounts are investments. That December afternoon outside the bank, holding that $47,000 cashier's check, I had a choice between safety and growth, between preserving what I had and building what I could have, between following conventional wisdom and following the math. I chose growth, and it made all the difference. The one decision to stop saving and start investing turned me into a millionaire and gave me financial security I never thought possible.